Welcome to the 62nd podcast on YouTube.
Nothing left to say. Nothing left to lose. But I'm not the same without you. It's true. I'm getting ready for the performance of my lifetime. There's no curtain call. I ain't getting out of here alive. But I'm not ready for the performance of my lifetime. I have stage fright. Can't remember any of my lines.
Hey man, just be yourself. It's great to have you here. So welcome to the 62nd podcast.
Thank you.
My guest today is Hunter Ellis. His initial fame started on the show Survivor in 2002, and he hosted several shows on the History Channel. Wait a minute. That's the wrong script. All right, so Hunter is actually a musician from the Northern Bay Area, Sonoma County specifically. He has a new release coming out this month called Pariah.
It'll be on Tidal and Spotify and Apple Music and Bandcamp.
Can you tell us a little bit about your new album and how you wrote and recorded it?
Yeah, I wrote it over the course of 2024, which was a pretty intense year for me. I started recording it in the apartment that I'm living in, which is my previous albums I had recorded in a studio that I had built, which was like really pretty nice and had a lot of cool stuff in it. And I used my friend's real studios to record the drums, had like a whole mixing board and all kinds of cool gear. And I just had a bunch of songs that I had written on acoustic guitar. And I started recording them with like a really cheap Focusrite, like the cheap 2-input Focusrite that you can get into a laptop. And wasn't really sure what I was going to do with them. And then I kept writing some more over last summer. Kind of let them sit around for a while. Didn't really touch them for 3 or 4 months, and then started revisiting them last January. Brought a couple more pieces of gear from my old studio over and re-recorded a lot of stuff, but there's definitely plenty of old Focusrite acoustic guitar recordings and vocal recordings in there. You can hear like crows in the background if you listen really carefully, and like my dog sometimes. And yeah, I just kind of worked on it over the spring, finishing it up, and I got my friend Dup Crossan, who I had played in Saint Solitude with in 2022, to record drums on a couple of the songs. And that kind of, once he agreed to do that, it kind of turned it into like a, I don't know, more of a real project that I felt like, I mean, I was going to finish it anyway, but it gave me a little more oomph to finish it. And yeah, I just spent the last probably April and May kind of tweaking mixes on it. Oh, I didn't have any speakers for the longest time. I was mixing it all on headphones, which was really hard. So I borrowed some cheap speakers from my friend Naveed to help me like finish the, like, I don't know, because it's kind of impossible to do certain things just in headphones.
Shout out Naveed.
Yeah, shout out Naveed's mom, really, because they were her speakers. And then I got this guy, Mark Gallup, who mastered my last record, Light Sleeper. I got him to master it for me. It was really kind of him to help me out. Shout out Mark. I think he's based in Nashville. I don't know. He does a great job. I was really happy with what he did. Yeah, and so I'm real proud of it. Oh, I got Don Malcolmus, an old friend who I've played in bands with. He played on Coma Lily's records and played in my dad's, played on Sex Goddess record. He's played on almost all my records, actually.
He lent you his breath.
He's the only. What's that?
He lent you his breath. He plays trumpet. Is that correct?
Yeah, he plays trumpet on the first track, on the title track, Pariah.
Very cool.
And yeah, it comes out August 22nd, I believe, and I'm pretty proud of it, and I'm excited to put it out there. And it's the first thing I've put out that has me singing on everything. Is that true? Yeah. And it's kind of a departure, I would say, at least in my mind, from stuff I've done before. It all really started as like acoustic singer-songwriter type stuff. Some of the songs kind of evolved and took on lives of their own and turned into rock songs or electronic songs, but at their hearts, they're all these just kind of acoustic songs with singing, which I had never really set out to write songs that were just kind of supposed to be or could exist on their own as just one acoustic guitar and a voice. Usually in my head, there's a whole band arrangement or something that I have in mind ahead of time. So yeah, that's the short story of how it came to be.
Yeah, it sounds very personal, and I appreciate the human touch that you put behind it. I can tell with your voice and your guitar playing that it does come across as very human, and like you said, you could feel that you were definitely going through something, and yeah, I appreciate you sharing your art with us. That kind of gets into my topic of the human touch in music and where we're going in the future. Can you just talk a little bit more about your time as an audio engineer, back before, when digital track recording kind of started? You were kind of on the ground floor of it, and now it's come a long ways in 20 years.
Yeah, it makes me feel old. Yeah. I started. My first foray into audio making and recording was really trying to make music in my bedroom and make electronic music.
FL Studio.
I used.
Shout out.
Yeah, I used Fruity Loops Studio, and I used it to generate drum beats and synth lines and whatever, and then I would export them out as WAV files and import them into Acid Pro, and then chop them up and put effects on them and arrange them and whatever, and wanted to be Aphex Twin. And then when the Coma Lily's went to go record our second record, or third, whatever, however you want to count it, Memento Mori, Roger at Grizzly Studios rented it out to us for $100 a day, if we would just do it ourselves, which was a great deal at the time. It would have been a great deal if we didn't spend 100 fucking days in there.
Doing whippets and s'mores.
I was, yeah, exactly. Smoked a ton of weed. $100 a day for recording and $100 a day for all the weed we were smoking. but I don't know why. I guess I was the one who learned how to do all the recording. Um, so
You're good.
yeah, that was basically a crash course in how to record all this stuff. We used and how to do audio engineering. It was really pretty straightforward. It was mostly miking guitars and instruments with the kind of philosophy that Roger taught us of like stick a mic in front of the thing and press record. Um, we used a program called Samplitude that I've never seen or heard of since. It was really archaic, and it wasn't until I started making music with my friend Jamie Wask that I learned how to use Pro Tools. Is
Great guitar player.
that true? Yeah. Yeah, great guitar player, great audio engineer. He taught me so much, like almost everything that I actually learned. I learned, besides teaching myself, I learned from Jamie. He taught me all kinds of like actual tricks. And then, I got my own copy of Pro Tools in 2012 and have just been making my own records ever since. And I don't know, just have slowly gotten better and better at it. And in like 2020 and 2021, I kind of started building a studio and learned more about how gear works. And I don't know, you still just basically stick a microphone in front of something and press record. And, I think something that this process taught me is you can have a bunch of really great gear and spend a lot of time finessing everything, or you can not. And I don't know, you can get great results either way. And it's not necessarily, at least for me, it's not necessarily dependent on, you can ruin it either way, or you can get great results either way. I'm not really convinced. I think if your gear or your instrument or your process or whatever is fun and inspiring, and like if all the flashy lights and cool knobs make it like make you inspired to record and make it so that you're having a good time recording, I think there's a lot of value in that. I don't think that the average person can really hear the much of a difference a lot of the time. And I think that people who are talented can make relatively inexpensive gear sound really good, and people that aren't talented can make really expensive gear sound not very good.
Right.
I can definitely do the latter. So
I kind of have a interesting like side topic to that where have you heard of like archetypes or plugins based on musicians? Like um some guitar players have like an archetype that you can download in Pro Tools and it like uses their guitar sounds. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't heard of it for, well, I've heard of it for producers more often than musicians, probably just because of the type of plugins and stuff I'm interested in and use.
Example is
I've heard
Tim
of,
Henson. Tim Henson from Polyphia has a. Do you know Tim?
uh-uh.
Little Timmy Hendrix. He's a guitar player. In the band's called Polyphia. They do the kind of like trap rock, but like it's all guitar and instrumental. They had
Yeah, I know.
Steve
I've
Vai
heard of
on.
them.
Yeah, he had Steve Vai on one of his songs recently. Um, they kind of ripped off Memento Mori, like their album's called like Remember You're Gonna Die.
Yeah. Well, Memento Mori is we ripped off whatever the Catholic Church, so
Yeah,
it goes around, it comes around.
right. that like eventually you will have like a plugin that people will prompt. It'll be like an AI plugin of a musician. So you could say, I want Gabe Katz to play the drums, and he will license his plugin to people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know how the technology would capture that, but I think that would I would love a Gabe Katz plugin. Be great.
I'd like him to get credit if people were, using his sounds. Um, so
Yeah,
so it's just something I thought of because I knew that these archetypes existed where you could download like a plugin based off of a band. Um, and that kind of gets me to my yeah, like in for instance in the Suno AI app, you can create stems off of what you create. So you don't actually like you actually deconstruct it instead of constructing it. Whatever it spits out, then you turn it into stems. So like I'm saying, you can further adjust them individually and then like re-import them back into a DAW. Um or you like for instance you could like take the whole drum part out and then put a different one in, but keep the rest of the song the same. So I think musicians could use that as motivation to like, I have this this the way that you prompt this instrument is based off of this musician. That I think that just would be
right.
a really cool way to like give credit to who you're actually influenced by, and like um another thing that you mentioned was creating sound with whatever you have. And then for instance, when do you decide this sounds good enough to me? I'm going to release it. That's a really hard decision, right?
Yeah, really hard. Really good question. Uh, I struggle with that. Um, honestly, sometimes I'm just sick of this and I have to get it off of my. Like, I've had things that I've released where I've been like, maybe I shouldn't have even released that. I just couldn't stand working on it anymore. And I was like stuck working on it. And I felt like, just for me, I just like, I had to release it in order to get it out of my whatever brain and like literal desktop folder on my computer so that it wasn't just in my stuff. Um, Most of the time, though, I spend like 2 months when it's like, I'm like, okay, it's done. And then I spend 2 months doing like little final tweaks that, like, you know, maybe 10% of people could tell the difference of. Uh, and my process is basically, I'm not sure this is the right process, but mine is to basically listen to it over and over again until I don't hear a single thing that I would change. Um, Problem with that is oftentimes if the more you listen to the more I listen to something, what is wrong is right because you get used to it. And so I heard there's this guy that named Matthew White that is like a not famous or kind of famous musician, but not very famous. And he said this thing on the internet a long time ago that really stuck with me because I disagreed with it at the time. But he was like, don't listen to rough mixes unless you're working on them. Because I listen to rough mixes all the time. And I have thought about trying to not, and I still do it all the time. But I think the point is, if you're listening to these rough mixes, that little thing that isn't right, but you're like driving in your car and you hear it and it's wrong, but you listen to it 3 times without being able to fix it. By like the 4th time you listen to it, your brain starts to think that it's how it's supposed to be. And so then you get back home and you can start to work on it. And you hear it the 5th time and you won't remember that you need to change it. So I try to write notes to myself all the time when I'm listening to a rough mix. So at least I will try to remember it later. But yeah, how do you tell that something is good enough? Um, sometimes there's things where I'm like, that's as good as I can get it, given my abilities or my technological limitations, or like I I really liked the way I don't know, recorded that for whatever reason, and I don't think I could re-record it because of X, Y, or Z. And so like maybe the recording quality isn't as high as I want it, but like the performance or the something else about it is worth, you know, not I don't want to re-record it to lose the some aspect of it that the recording quality isn't up to par. I don't know. But I struggle with that all the
Hmm.
time, especially working on something by yourself. That's the by far the hardest part for me about working on something by myself is there's no one to. I mean, you can have your friends, but like when there's no one involved in the project, there's no one to give you feedback or to have their own opinions about it or to like, push back against what you think is good or to, agree with you when you think something is good or whatever. And you're just kind of like in there by yourself going, I guess this is good. So yeah, that's really hard.
Yeah, I can totally speak to that because uh, I've not released any music in my life, and I've created all my music by myself. So I probably listened to stuff I made a long time ago, and to me, I could like groove to it because it's so familiar now. And it's like if someone else heard it, they'd think it was just garbage. So I could see where like you grow nostalgia to even just hearing it 3 or 4 times. It's like, okay, I made that. It's personal to me, so it's good enough for my ears. I can totally see that, and I think it is really important to bounce your ideas off of other people and get other ears on it. And uh, it's almost like if you could just erase your brain like Eternal Sunshine and just like re-listen to stuff for the first time every time. And that kind of gets me
Yeah.
into the way AI is used. The program will spit out two versions that are similar to whatever you prompted, but they will have their own flavor in certain ways and different instrumentation effects. Different. It will sound similar, but also unique. You're given this option to choose one or the other. That is basically like what it comes down to. You could further edit stuff, but when it's just giving you two options and you choose which one is better, it's makes it really easy to just decide, okay, I like that one. But then
Yeah.
you could obviously take a part of one and then a part of another one and create 10, 15. You can create as many as you want. There should be limits on it. Um, and it is kind of a paywall right now. Um, but because like you have to get a certain number of credits per month to do these songs. But if you catch where I'm going, it's like if when it's just one or the other, it makes it really easy to just be like that one sounded better to me. Um,
Yeah.
so
And I mean, sometimes I'll even have little mixes or whatever. If it's, I rarely have the foresight to do this, but I might even have two versions of a mix if I want to try something and save two versions and go back to the other one just to do that exact thing because then I can have two options, which is, like you said, way easier than just trying to like forge ahead. Anyway.
yeah, um, so a lot of a lot of your recorded stuff has been with other bands, and then you've done a lot of solo stuff as well. Can you tell me a little bit about just like performing as a group versus creating something personal and the live performance is pretty huge when you're in a band. Like it must be really fun to perform. And
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I haven't really done anything with a band. I mean, this sounds weird because I haven't. Yeah, I haven't really done anything with a band in like 13 years. I mean, I had a band, but that band was my project doing live versions of stuff I had written and already recorded. Making that live was super fun. It was like a whole entirely different experience. I tried as much as I could to like not stick to and not care about what was actually recorded and just try to do what the band what we did, like what we came up with in the band room as much as possible. What I found was that takes a lot more time and energy, and it can be a lot more fun. But like when there's 5 or 7 people in the band, and you're practicing once a week at most, sometimes it's just more efficient to, like, if there's something already recorded, it can be more efficient to just be like, well, here's what's on the record, let's just do that. However, I think we did a pretty good job of like taking the songs, and especially once you've become more familiar with them and learned them, then you can like play them a few more times and create them as your own. I think in towards the end of playing in the Coma Lilies, and to a certain degree playing with my dad's, to a lot of degree, there was a lot of like, these songs are composed this exact way, and so recording them was like really an exercise of transposing the composition onto tape, so to speak. And that can be not very fun for me. There can be really fun times of like adding nuance and layers and like little like bits of flair in the recording that are like recording only little Easter eggs that you could never do live. That's always really fun, like the icing on top. But it's really honestly been like a really long time, like 20 years since I was really in a band that was like rehearsed and knew our songs and had played them a bunch and then went to go record them. Everything else has been like, here's some songs we wrote, here's recordings, and now we're gonna learn and tour them. Which is kind of, I guess, how I guess bands do it all different kinds of ways. But I remember when I was little, I'd read about like these bands would go to the studio and write a record. I'd be like, that seems so weird. How do you do that? You write a record when you're in the practice room and you're just writing songs and jamming them all and like learning how to play them live, and then you go record them. And now I understand how you could completely write a record in a recording studio, even as a band. So I don't know. It's someday it would be really nice to I don't know, have kind of like combine those two, to combine it all, to have the ability to write and jam stuff in a recording studio, write as a band in a live space at the same time as overdubbing and writing pre-written or recording pre-written stuff and like bringing it all together in one big cohesive project. But I don't know if I'll ever get to do that again. Trying to track back. Yeah,
like you said, when you were
and,
in high school, you had more time to just jam.
Yeah, and money gets in the way because recording studios are expensive. There's an interesting conundrum of if the software has paywalls. I mean, currently the music industry has paywalls. You have to basically pay to play. You have to pay producers that are already well known to work with you to get, your songs that you wrote recorded and produced in a manner that labels will like, and then whatever, pay for placement and whatever.